My name's Kerri, sometimes called the Coffee and Conversation Counselor. I'm in private practice in Riverview at Coverdale Counselling and Consulting, and I am excited to partner with the CMHA on various projects, including supporting our community right now as we are all working together and coming together and sharing an experience of this new world, this really unusual and unprecedented set of events, this COVID-19 pandemic. So today we're planning to talk about routine. And I know that routine is challenging a lot of the time, but we're going to talk about maintaining routine during COVID-19. So let's talk about COVID-19 and routines. So we know that this pandemic, the changes in our daily lives has impacted our daily routines. We know that. We know that the way that we've been always doing things is different. Without routine, our life becomes really unpredictable. And as we've noticed over the last few weeks, things have become unpredictable. We're not going to school. We're not going to work. We're not going to daycare. We're not going to the gym. We're not going to our places of worship. Things have changed. Without routine, life can feel very, very, very unpredictable. And if you have an underlying condition associated with anxiety, unpredictability and lack of structure can be particularly worrying. So we will talk about that a little bit as well. When we have routine in life, we know what's coming next. We eliminate the need for on-the-spot, on-the-fly decision-making. And that can help us implement things that are good for us. Our exercise routines, eating healthy, planning our social gatherings. We can kind of almost go on autopilot, not in a negative way, but in a really good way. And, having that effective routine can help us to prioritize the things that matter to us and what needs to be done. So as we go through this new world that we're experiencing right now, finding ways to incorporate routine in a healthy way is going to be especially important. For example, maybe you're someone who goes to the gym every day before work, and you simply can't do that now because our gyms are closed. Well, this is an opportunity to try to get in some physical activity first thing in the morning anyway. And there's lots of ways to do that. Going out for a run, of course, following Department of Health recommendations regarding physical distancing. And we'll talk some more about resources for those kinds of things a little bit later. One of the big challenges for so many of us, and those of you who are familiar with me know that I'm a mom and I have kids, and they inform so much of my daily life. If our kids are home from school, whether it's daycare or elementary, middle, high school, or even young adults who are home from university and college, they're so accustomed to that routine, and all of a sudden their lives are turned upside down as well. And if we're trying to work from home, their lack of structure can be really, really confusing for us and for them. So we're going to talk about how it impacts our kids as well. So let's talk about these things we can do and why routine is so important. Well, first of all, routine is grounding. It gives us an opportunity to be anchored. And no matter what's going on in our day, if we know that having supper happens at 5 p.m. every day, it's something we can be consistently looking forward to, and it can feel comforting. Growing up in my household, supper was always at 5 p.m. and it was clockwork. We knew it was at 5 o'clock. You were sitting at the table ready to eat. That felt very comforting. And even when I would come home from university, we would still know that dinner was at 5 o'clock. And it just created that sense of familiarity. So when we have a certainty of routine, it can really help us manage and cope with the uncertainties that life can throw at us. Coping with these unpredictable times can feel more doable when we have a little bit of structure to lean on. So having that daily routine can reduce our stress levels. And we'll talk about stress in various webinars that you'll see put on by the CMHA. But one of the things that we know is that when our stress increases and our cortisol increases, we're at greater risk for high blood pressure, heart attack, stroke, inflammation, weakened immune system, and those are not great things. So we want to reduce our stress as much as possible. When our brains are filled up with trying to remember everything we're supposed to do, it's overwhelming. So when we have some semblance of routine, it can help us to feel less overwhelmed. We don't have to kind of think, oh yeah, what was that thing I was supposed to do? For example, with kids, we get into routines where they know that before school they brush their teeth, or before bed they brush their teeth. The guesswork is taken out of it for them and it becomes familiar. Part of the importance of routine is that it does help us to prioritize self-care. And I talk about self-care a lot with my own clients, and the importance of managing our own needs can help us to really prioritize those healthy habits, such as taking time for self. Taking that few minutes just to sit and breathe and connect with self, getting some exercise, getting enough water, and so on. So when we have that routine, the self-care portion of it becomes much more of a priority in an appropriate fashion. Routine helps us develop healthy sleep habits. We know that a sleep routine and good sleep hygiene is important for our mental health. It can feel a little bit like a free-for-all right now because everybody's schedules are a little bit wonky. But when we disrupt our sleep routines, we really are impacting our mental health. And that's something we want to be very mindful of not doing. And of course, when we build routine, we create time for exercise. We're able to build in the important things in our lives. Maybe that's, sitting down and playing with your cat. As a therapist and doing online work, I'm seeing a lot of people's cats and dogs and budgies and ferrets. So it's really interesting that now we have this opportunity to carve out time to actually spend time with them. So one of the things that I love to remember is that when we have a healthy routine in place, we're able to make better choices, more easily face the challenges that arise, and remembering, of course, that we can't plan for absolutely everything. None of us plan for the situation that we are in, but if we follow taking care of the basics, food, water, sleep, exercise, connection, then we can more easily handle the various challenges that are being thrown our way. Now, routines are not the same person to person. My routine is going to be very different than yours. It's going to be very different from Joe's or Sally's or Andrew's or Jean-Marc's. But there are specific building blocks of routine that really support mental health. So I think what we'll maybe start with talking about are some of the ways that we can incorporate a morning routine. And I think for a lot of us, pre-COVID-19, the morning was when kind of we start our day. It's how we set the tone. So let's talk a little bit about how we can describe a morning routine that will inform the rest of our day. This is one of my favorites, and I've said it 100 times to my kids. I practice it. I've told my clients, if we prepare what we need the night before, then our morning routine is more likely to be successful. So in our household, that means that our kids choose their clothes the night before. I choose my clothes the night before. We lay out our clothes the night before. It seems like, I don't know, maybe it feels onerous, but in fact, it actually makes our morning go that much smoother. And even though we are all home right now, we are still doing that. We are still picking out our clothing and laying them out the night before because we're maintaining that semblance of routine. So if we think about the aspects of our nighttime routine that make our day, the next day better, choosing our clothes. We grind our coffee the night before so that we don't have to wake anybody up in the morning. I'm an early riser, up between 4:30 and 5. So if I were grinding coffee in the house, I would be waking everyone up. Sometimes, doing breakfast prep the night before. We often eat things like chia pudding or oatmeal pudding, and we put them in the fridge the night before to prepare them, and we're ready to go. Part of having a good morning routine, of course, is having a good sleep the night before. So a really good bedtime strategy is important. And that's really incorporating good sleep hygiene. And I know that a lot of us are having a hard time right now with sleep. And of course, that's a challenge. And I know that my colleague Kayla was talking about mindfulness earlier, which is a great strategy for helping us to calm for sleep. But pieces of sleep hygiene that are important are going to bed at around or at the same time every night. And for children, we'll talk about that a little bit more later. A cool, dark room. Reduction of screen time before bed, an hour or two before bed, all of those kinds of things for good sleep hygiene. No TV in the bedroom, so on. And then kind of allowing that to meld into our morning routine so that when we wake up the next morning, we're ready to go. And if you're an essential worker who's still leaving, to go to work every day, and thank you so much for being out there, whether you're in healthcare or infrastructure or food service or grocery or transportation or police services. Thank you so much for being out there. We really appreciate the work that you're doing and that you are really keeping our communities operating. There are things you can do. Make sure your keys are in the same place every day. Make sure your work bag is in the same place every day. Make sure other essentials that you need for work are maybe near the door so that you can be ready to go in the morning. Those are the kinds of things that can actually reduce our levels of anxiety because they're ready to go. And it's just great for us to have those strategies in place before we need them. So let's talk wake up time. I'm an early riser, which means I'm up pre-dawn most days. But if you're not, actually allowing the light to come in to wake you up can actually help you get started and actually encourage you to have a more positive day. It helps kind of clearing away the morning cobwebs, the groggies. If you can't get direct sunlight, using a bedtime lamp for 10 or 15 minutes as you're waking up, using a happy light. Many of you may have heard of those. And even blue lights have been very positive for kind of helping us in that morning pre-dawn waking. And here, of course, in the Northern Hemisphere, we have finally shifted into seeing some daylight a little bit earlier, but through those winter months, having some sunshine can really be helpful. This is a great piece. Make the bed. My kids are going to hate that I'm saying this. A lot of people neglect this. A lot of people neglect making the bed, the few minutes that it takes to make the bed in the morning. However, it can set the tone for our day. And if you're seeing these, our notes here on the screen that say that making the bed boosts your self-esteem, and you're scratching your head saying, how on earth does it do that? There are a lot of studies that show that making the bed, getting into that habit, is positively correlated to improved mood. And that it's correlated to having a more positive tone for your day, which then, in fact, increases your confidence and your levels of self-esteem. It's partly related to the fact that you've completed a task first thing in the morning, so there's that sense of accomplishment. Even though it may simply be a matter of pulling up a duvet, smoothing the edges, and fluffing your pillows, you have accomplished something immediately, which creates that really good sense of, hey, I've done something. Oof, okay, I can tick something off the list today. So setting the tone for the day by making your bed. See, our moms were right all along. Isn't that frustrating, right? When you find out that your parents were right? So I'm super guilty. I am a coffee drinker, coffee. I love coffee, not gonna lie. However, I also have recognized the importance of water in my diet. And there was a study in I'm going to say Nutrition Reviews that talks about dehydration and how it can actually impair cognitive function. Most of us wake up a little bit dehydrated after the night, after sleeping, and rehydrating first thing in the morning, not with coffee, can help improve our cognition, can help improve our mental function. And as we progress through the day, hydration becomes more important because, this is the time of day, in an hour or two where we start to have that mid-afternoon slump. And most of us might reach for a coffee or a Snickers bar, but in fact, drinking water can help us with our fatigue, improve our mood, reduce irritability, reduce confusion. So, hydration is not the answer to all mental issues, obviously. It's not going to cure all of our mental health concerns, but it certainly can be an important part of our mental health and maintaining that routine. So one of the things that I've learned to do is set a timer. So when I've been working in the office, for example, between each session, I made a point of filling my glass with water and drinking a glass of water between each session, just to make sure that I had, at least 5 or 6 times a day that I intentionally and very focused drank a glass of water. Maybe you don't need a timer. I need a timer to remind me of those things. So setting alarms can be a helpful way to do that. Now, of course, with hydration to start our day also comes the importance of nourishing and fueling our bodies. I've noticed, and I'm sure all of you have seen the social media memes of, I have an important date with my refrigerator later, or, quarantine snacks gone. And it can be really easy when we don't have our regular schedules to fall into the trap of eating all of the Doritos, of chowing down on all the Oreos, of eating an entire quart of yogurt. None of those are bad in of themselves, right? But making sure that as we start our day, that we eat something healthy within, that first hour of waking is an important part of bringing our blood sugar levels up to appropriate numbers so that we're not so cranky, guilty hypoglycemic here. And if I don't eat, I am definitely guilty of that. We've basically been fasting all night. So it is important to eat something. And you can talk to, your nutritionist, talk to, a naturopath, a dietitian. There are some phenomenal practitioners across the province who can help you with this. And they're also doing telehealth sessions to help you determine what is appropriate for your particular needs. But generally speaking, we want to make sure that we get our blood sugar levels at an appropriate number to support our mood and to support our cognition throughout the day. And there's no shortage of studies to support this that talk about those who have eaten a healthy breakfast had lower levels of stress. So one of our favorite foods, as I mentioned earlier, is we make chia puddings the night before. So chia seeds and cocoa powder and almond milk and avocados, and we blend them up and put it in the fridge. So we have a quick and easy meal first thing in the morning that we top with Greek yogurt and some nuts. We've got a pretty complex set of nutrients there that just helps us get started. So, you'll find what works for you as an individual, for your family, and looking at some of those great online resources is a super way to get started there. After we've had an opportunity to kind of wake, to have some light, to hydrate, maybe to nourish. And again, this is not a set order. This is just an example of how we might do things. It can be really helpful to engage in a practice. I encourage practicing gratitude, and I've talked about this in various Facebook Lives and other webinars and in sessions with clients. It can be a very helpful thing to start your day by writing down 3 gratitudes. You can end your day the same way. It's a great practice to get into with your kids if you're a parent, to help them start the day on a positive note. Maybe you're grateful that your partner did not put the milk carton back in the fridge with 1 ounce of milk left in it. Okay, your gratitudes don't have to be huge global things. They can be tiny little things, but they set the tone. I'm grateful that my kids put the cap on the toothpaste. Find your small gratitudes and write them down. Starting your day off with a grateful mindset is really a healthy way to foster a positive attitude and to improve, again, that mindset of positivity, of accomplishment, of esteem and confidence. But then what? Well, we might need to find ways to get motivated. And we all have motivation showing up in different kinds of ways. And right now, it can probably feel really difficult to get motivated. Everything is different. Everything is uncertain. But motivation is really important in promoting our wakefulness, in promoting positivity, in promoting strong cognitions. So finding things that motivate you. So for me, I love trying to find something to celebrate in the morning, finding that little pocket of joy. So for me, it's often spending time with my horses or getting outside and looking at the sunrise. So find some morning motivation to set you up for a positive day. I know that my youngest, if I turned on the television with SpongeBob, and don't even get me started about SpongeBob, she's excited. She wants to dance. She's getting going. So finding whatever motivates you, whether it's the sunrise or an inane children's cartoon, find something that gets you motivated to start your day and build that into your routine. So, getting up, getting hydrated, getting nourished, all of those things are part of the routine. How many of us, and I know how many hands, I wish I could see you all so I could see how many hands fly up right now. How many of us, the first thing we do is grab our phone and check Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, email, insert appropriate social media platform here, right? Thank you, Hussein. Everybody does this, right, Lauren? Yeah, everybody is doing this. We are checking our phones first thing. Well, stop. Stop. Don't do it. Take some time before we check into technology. Who wants to start their day being barraged by all of this stuff? Give yourself some space first. Give yourself some time first before checking your social media. If we start our day in overload, how on earth are we supposed to progress in a healthy way? Take some time. And it's a habit. It is a compulsion, right? We are so tied to this. And especially right now where we don't have our face-to-face interactions that we're so accustomed to, it is so easy to pick up the phone and check immediately, to still be laying in bed and pick it up. So don't. Exercise some control. Exercise your right to not be bombarded with information, and wait. Give yourself some time and space before you check into social media. One of the things that is part of my morning routine and is part of routine for so many people is a practice of silence and stillness. And this can look differently for anybody. For me, it's, sitting for 2 minutes of silence just to breathe and be before I get into my routine of journaling and devotions and so on. So practicing meditation or prayer can help you center your day. And it has lots of really proven mental health benefits. Even 15 minutes, and I don't even practice that much. I'm probably like in the 5 to 7 minute range to start my day. Even 15 minutes of daily mindfulness practice, as I said, meditation, prayer, silence, can actually have some of the same stress relieving properties on your body as taking a vacation. And since we know none of us are going to be taking a vacation anytime soon, maybe 15 minutes of mindful practice would be of a really good benefit to us. Meditation practice of quietness and breathing has actually been shown to reduce levels of stress, anxiety, depression, and even in some studies has been shown to reduce levels of pain. And that may very well be because of the reduction of inflammation related to cortisol. I'm not certain. So how do we do that? Well, find a comfortable place that's quiet and where you can go and be alone and be still. Because I'm an early riser, it's easy for me. Nobody else in my family wants to be up at 4:30 or 5 a.m. So it's easy for me. So finding your own place and space to do that. Set a timer. Because it can be really hard when you first practice stillness and silence to think, oh golly, is 2 minutes up yet? Is 10 minutes up yet? Set a timer. Don't keep looking at it and just be very still. And if you're really not sure how to do this, there are plenty of YouTube videos and websites that would help you practice this. And as we get talking about children here in a moment, there are also some really great resources for helping children practice stillness and silence and mindful breathing. So continuing on into our routine, we make a list. Write down your goals for the day. What is it that you want to accomplish? Make a list of your supplies. Make a list of fun ideas for the day, activities. Ask your partner, ask your kids, ask your roommates. Hey, what are we going to do that's fun today? Because we're here in the house together. What can we do? Write down a list of your obligations. Oh, you know what? I do need to check in with work, or is that bill due today? So just checking in and with your list, not an overwhelming list that's pages and pages and pages of to-dos, but really just a little bit of a list, and that can help reduce some of the chaos of wondering what to do for the day. When we organize ourselves around our values, around our priorities, then we can really give ourselves space to be our best selves and to be the best we can for the people in our lives. And then, of course, it's important to get physical in our routine. Get moving first thing, whether it's getting out for a run, doing a yoga practice, having a living room dance party. We've had a lot of those lately, a lot of living room dance parties. And I'm pretty confident that our two kids have basically determined that the entire house is a parkour course or an American Ninja Warrior course. They've been really doing a lot of interesting physical activities first thing in the morning. So find whatever works for you. If you need to do calisthenics, if you need to do CrossFit, whatever it is, we can still do these things at home. So find your morning activity, get those endorphins bumped right up to start our day, all those happy chemicals, because they help reduce stress and anxiety. When we do that, that can actually contribute to our sense of calm for the rest of the day and help guide us as we continue on in the day. So whether we have 5 spare minutes to exercise or we have 5 hours, it's up to you, right? None of this is a one-size-fits-all. These are just some suggested guidelines to help you determine a routine for your own day. I don't think I have it in me, the stamina these days, to do 5 hours of exercise, but I could probably do 5 minutes, maybe even 15. So you'll have to find what works for you. So you might be saying, yeah, but life is different now. Things are not the same anymore. And you're absolutely right. Things are not the same. But that doesn't mean that we can't have routine. That doesn't mean that routine doesn't matter. Getting up and going to sleep at the same time every day. Preparing for work or our days off the night before. Daily exercise, meditation, inspirational reading practices. Scheduling our meals, meal prep and meal planning, spending time on family time or hobbies, building household tasks into our routine, and ultimately getting some sleep. We can still do all of these things regardless of whether we're home from work, frontline worker, doing half and half, doing shifts. We can still do all of these things. We just have to modify them according to our needs. So what can you do? Sleep well. Get good sleep. And sleep is foundational. And I talk about this in my practice. Sleep needs to be part of our routines. Right now, so many of us are working remotely and using this platform or, what other video platform. We need to sleep. Our bodies need that to refresh. This is hard on our systems. We need to go outside. We need to get air. Again, following Department of Health guidelines and appropriateness of physical distancing. Unplug. Unplug a bit and don't obsess about it. It is absolutely okay to stop the 24/7 news cycle for a little while, put our phones down, put our tablets down, shut down our laptops and our desktops, turn off the television. It'll still be there when we come back. We can practice positivity and gratitude. Part of our family practice has been to engage in a movie and pizza night every Friday, and that's been several years ongoing. That hasn't changed. We still watch our movies. We still have our pizza. We just don't go to a restaurant to get it. We cook at home, and that's all great. We don't go out to the movie theater. It's Netflix or Disney Plus. Oh my word! If I watch Frozen 2 one more time, do your family activities. Maybe it's a board game night, whatever it is. Connect, right? And so many of us might be feeling disconnected right now. So connect with our family and friends using technology. So this is an opportunity to do that. And I'm seeing so many amazing ways that people are connecting out there that if we build that into our routine, then we don't forget about it. And then we engage in our practice of silence because we are, as I said, bombarded with so much information that just being still and silent is an important part of giving our brains a break, giving our soul and our spirit a chance to rejuvenate. So we're about halfway through. So now we're going to talk about kids specifically. And I'm seeing a lot of social media posts around homeschooling, about setting up very specific schedules, very rigid schedules. And on the other side of things, we're talking about the, and I'm guilty of doing it as well, posting the memes of chocolate eggs for breakfast, I'll allow it. So we have kind of two things happening. And I think that really what kids need is somewhere in the middle. So what about your kids? Kids thrive on routines. They may say they don't, but they do. So it's really important to consider keeping their regular bedtime routines, their regular morning routines, their regular sitting down for lunch at the same time routines. And the information that I'm going to share in the next little while came from a really great article written by Dr. Sophie Balinas out of the Neuropsychology and Education Services for Children and Adolescents out of the US. And she provided some really great ideas and context around why kids need schedule and what it should look like at the kind of preschool, elementary, middle school, and high school ages. So When our children have consistency, they know what to expect. When they know what to expect, it can make the unpredictable situation that we're in right now feel less scary and less unpredictable. They can feel calmer. They can feel more regulated. And we talked in another session about how kids right now may be acting a little dysregulated because so much is uncertain for them. You can certainly request classroom work from teachers, but again, we're going to be, being aware of that as appropriate. But we want to look at some key things: bedtime, morning, lunch, some physical activity, and write things down. The homework piece, well, I think we need to really follow the guidelines of our educators, the Department of Education, childhood experts, child brain development experts. But we can read to our kids. We can do printables. We can engage in learning actively, even if we don't have direction yet from the Department of Education. It's okay to take a breath and wait for the experts. It is absolutely okay. And if you really do want to, kind of go online and get some learning, we're going to talk about some great screen time opportunities for learning in a moment. Kids also need playtime, right? They need to break up their day. They do this at school, whether they're little kids or big kids, they break up their day. They're not sitting at a desk front and center for 8 hours a day. They have breaks in their schedule. That might be some downtime for coloring, or reading. It might be playing. It might be a game. It might be a puzzle. The average elementary student, for example, fluctuates from learning and time to process and reflect on it to fun. And so with this extended stay at home, it's really important that we touch on all of those pieces in order for them to have a sense of normalcy. Part of doing that will be incorporating a schedule that they are part of planning, because they really need to have some sense of autonomy at this time as well. So help them build the schedule and talk about it, and then they will be able to predict when their bodies will get a break and be able to change things up. And that's really important, that predictability for them. So here's some of those screen resources. And I know, so many of us are relying on screen time a little bit more than we normally would. It's okay. Okay, our kids' brains are not going to turn to mush. It's okay. And if that extra hour of screen time lets you get some work done, lets you have a breather and a break, it's okay. Right? There's no space for judgment right now. We are all just doing the best we can. We're all just trying really hard to instill a sense of safety, security, and normalcy in ourselves, in our partners, in our communities, and in our kids. So you know what? Whatever you're doing okay. You're doing a good job. We're all just doing our best. If you want some great resources, I've got some here on the screen: National Geographic Kids, PBS Kids, Science Daily, Education World, Time for Kids, Smithsonian, Common Sense Media. And then if you start looking at all of the kind of celebrity pieces that are happening, Lunch Doodles with Mo Williams, Prima Ballerina, and her name just escaped me, is doing dance classes. Our local dance studios across the province are doing online dance classes. Various teachers have been doing readings and art classes and so many amazing things. And you know what? I want to do them. Not just my kids. I want to go to the NASA website and explore all of their stuff. I want to go to the Smithsonian and see all the things. I want to go to the Metropolitan Opera and watch all these amazing operas. So here's some great opportunities for healthy developmental learning screen time. And yeah, let them once in a while watch SpongeBob and Frozen too. But then we need to get moving, right? We need to get moving. We need our bodies moving. And our Chief Medical Officer of Health has talked about getting outside as appropriate, physical distancing being respected. Our kids need to move their bodies. We need to move our bodies. Thankfully, there are lots of creative ways to make sure we move our bodies. There's lots of creative ways to get some time in for gross motor movement, not just in the outdoors, but also indoors, because sometimes we've got really crummy weather, right? We live here in the Maritimes. Sometimes on a day like today, it's dark, it's foggy, there's some freezing rain and drizzle. It's just a yucky day. So there's lots of different things. Go noodle. which I had never heard of before now, but gonoodle.com has some stuff. CosmicKids.com. If you know a Beachbody coach, Beachbody has offered up a whole bunch of kids programming for free. A lot of our local Ys are doing Facebook workouts. Local gyms are doing things. You can do group HIIT, high intensity interval training online. You can check that out on YouTube. The gym out of the US, Planet Fitness, is offering free classes online. You just have to go onto their Facebook page. Pilates Anytime is offering classes, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. So there are so many resources if you can't get outside to move your bodies. And getting moving is so important. I know that for myself, if I sit all day long, I'm agitated, I'm uncomfortable. So think about a kid who's accustomed to having lots of movement in their day, what that must be like. Give them opportunities to get moving. Tickle fights, build a fort, jumping jacks, see who can do planks the longest, whatever you need to do to get everybody moving and make it a family thing. One of the things that has circulated through social media and has been talked about a lot by folks is the notion that you don't have to be engaged in formalized educational training in order for kids to learn. So we can talk about life skills education. And this can be things like cooking, learning to do laundry, learning how to clean, learning how to organize, meal plan, write grocery lists, and so on. Our oldest daughter, has been learning how to cook in the last week or so, and she's very proud of herself for doing those things. And you know what? We're really proud of her too. Get littles engaged in folding laundry, in sorting, cleaning appropriately, which is a great conversation builder around kind of healthy cleaning habits as well. So these are life skills that all of our kids need to learn. Here's a great opportunity to do so. And then, of course, we need to think about executive functioning skills, and we can build these into our routine as well. So this would be, working on games, crafts, puzzles, problem solving, organization, telling time, and these can all be part of that daily routine. So when we sit down at the start of the day and make our list, we engage our children in that list making so that this becomes part of our shared goal setting and routine. So this is all built into that routine that we're crafting together so that we feel predictable, safe, that things feel reliable and certain in this really uncertain time. So the question that comes up is, does it really matter? Does routine really matter? Some of us thrive by flying by the seat of our pants. Some of us love the unpredictability of changes constantly. But even those of us who thrive on I'm going to say on chaos and on just going, still have some routine in their lives. And generally speaking, and again, exceptions notwithstanding, generally speaking, we do better with routine. Children in particular thrive when they know what to expect out of their day. For young children, routine helps them to grasp the concept of time. Even if they can't read a clock yet, they might be able to say, well, when we first get up, we brush our teeth, we have breakfast, we brush our teeth again, then we drive to daycare. So that's been their normal routine. So creating something, again, helps them to grasp concepts. We begin to remember things. It gives us a sense of control and consistency in the midst of this situation that really feels like it's out of our control. It gives us a sense of security, right? And right now, we want our kids to feel that they have some safety. And we really need to uphold that as the grown-ups, even when sometimes we don't feel it. So I know for me, creating routine helps me feel safe, helps me feel grounded, helps me feel comfortable. When we build routine into our lives, it really does give us that structure. It really does give us that familiarity and gives us ownership of our lives in this time when it is really confusing and hard to know what's next. That's pretty much the gist of why routine is important. There are things that we can't control. There are things that we cannot predict. There are things that are simply outside of the locus of our control. What we can do is choose to control the things that are within our small world, and setting a routine, daily, weekly routine. And again, allowing for flexibility, allowing for some stretch, some adjustments is important, but having some structure, flexible structure, is important to all of us for feeling safe and secure. So routines do matter. They really do. So now I'm going to have a look at, there's our resources here, some of the resources that I've shared, and you'll pardon me, I'm new to using Zoom webinars, so I'm going to look for the questions now and see what we have. Any advice for those living alone? Absolutely. So, and yes, I have kind of focused on kind of the family units, and I apologize. A part of my practice is working with children and families. So if you're living alone, you would have had your own routines anyway, whether it's work routines, social routines, food, and so on. So much of this advice still resonates for those who don't live with someone else. Set your morning routine, plan your meals. Socially, make plans to connect with friends or family via Skype, FaceTime, Facebook Messenger, video, what have you. Plan your exercise routines. You can do all those same things as an individual, and certainly I spent many years living alone as well, so I understand that it can be challenging, but you can still set routines that work for you. Your gratitude practice, your silence and stillness practice, hydration, getting good sleep, reducing the amount of social media bombardment and news bombardment that's coming. So you can do all of those same things. But for those who live alone right now, it is especially important to maintain some sort of social connection because you don't have the same immediate connection as those who are living in units, right? Whether you have roommates or partners or children or what have you. So if you're living alone, really you need to be intentional about staying connected and about staying connected with your community, with your family and friends, with your coworkers, with the community at large. And that's why some of the social media pieces, while they can be overwhelming if we allow them to infiltrate our lives completely, can also be tremendous tools for helping us to stay connected. You know, I want to thank you, all of you, for dropping by. I know that these webinars are coming up fast, and we're trying to prepare them kind of a little bit on the fly because this is a new experience for all of us. And we're all just doing the best we can. And we really appreciate that you're dropping by to access these resources. We appreciate that you have questions. And if there's questions that weren't answered during the webinar, please feel free to reach out either to the CMHA website or to my own website or Facebook page. We're happy to help you in whatever way we can. All right, well, if there are no other questions, I'm going to wish you, thank you, Heather, wish you a happy, I had to think, Friday. Happy Friday. How to deal with the fear of getting sick. Oh yeah, that, you know what, Romana, that's a really, really great question. And health anxiety is a real thing. That's a really huge topic, really a little bit outside the scope of this conversation. But as with any other, and I'm not going to call it an irrational fear because I think it's a very rational concern. It's a very, very real concern for many of us. How do we deal with that? Like any other intrusive thought, like any other anxious thought, we need to really sit down and address it in the ways that we would cope with any other anxious thoughts. So challenge the thought, challenge the probability, breathe through it. In a session yesterday, I talked about so often if we have a thought that is fearful or scary or uncomfortable, we try to stuff it down and try to ignore it or try to push it away. And that, in fact, can make it come back even bigger. And I use the analogy of trying to shove a beach ball under the water. And when you push down, it just comes flying back up in an even bigger way. So Kayla would have talked in her mindfulness session earlier today about the practice of radical acceptance. So if we have this scary thought, just allowing it to enter our consciousness, acknowledge it. Yeah, I have a fear right now. Sitting with the discomfort, breathing through it, and allowing it to pass out of our consciousness. So like the beach ball, instead of trying to stuff that fear down and pretend it's not there, allow it to kind of float into our line of sight and float out. if you're really struggling with fear of getting sick, if you're really struggling with anxiety around your health, then I would absolutely encourage reaching out to a licensed therapist or counselor, a licensed mental health professional, to have conversation. Because that really is something that many, many people are struggling with right now. And it could require some deeper one-on-one work and some more intimate conversation. But there are some really great resources. If you give me a moment, I will look up the resource that I want to share with you. Give me a second. I'm going to have to go on my phone because all these devices, I believe that it's anxiety.org, but I'm just going to double check.
While you're looking into that, Kerri, I'm just going to clarify for the individuals that were asking for the recording. Because you registered for this, we are going to be sending an email after the fact with the link, so you'll have access to it through there. And it'll also be available on our YouTube page, on the CMHA of NB YouTube page.
Perfect. Thank you, Angela.
No problem.
So, Romana, the website I was thinking of, and I'm glad that I did double check, it's anxietycanada.com. And they have some phenomenal resources, really great resources to help you cope with your anxiety. And if you look for the website, it looks like, I'm so terrible at this. It's a blue website, and it's a really great resource. And I use it quite frequently for just picking up different kinds of resources. So I hope that that helps you. Some people say they are not letting this pandemic cause them to upset them with fear, and they're still meeting their friends face to face for friendship support. Yeah, and I think that, as a licensed and regulated healthcare professional, I really do have to emphasize the importance of following the recommendations of the minister, they're the chief medical officer of health, and of our provincial and federal governments regarding physical distancing and self-isolating, and the importance of that. I think, personally speaking, I'm not going to answer for anyone else, but personally speaking, I closed my face-to-face practice 2 weeks ago because of the importance of not spreading this illness, and being mindful that there are recommendations in place from the experts. So there are other ways to maintain that social connection without having to have physical face-to-face contact. So I don't know if that answers you, Jeff, but I understand how challenging it is to not have that face-to-face. I would like nothing more than to hug my mom, right? Or to hang out with, my best friends. But right now, we're making the best choices we can for our most vulnerable people in our population. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining. I know this is an uncertain time, and we just want to help you in whatever way we can. And we are all in this together. And nothing has shown me community so much as the way that everybody's coming together to support each other in these ways. So thank you for stopping in. It is just about 1 o'clock. So we ran a little bit early today, but not a whole lot of questions. So thank you. Be well, be safe, practice your routines. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out. Take care.